Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. It's Throwback Thursday and today we're going to be talking about a movie that's sort of a guilty pleasure of mine. It's called The Monster Squad and let's jump right into it. The tagline for this movie says, you know who to call when you have ghosts, but who do you call when you have monsters? And the answer is the Monster Squad. Growing up, someone who was kind of into the Universal monsters and thinking that they were cool, this was the type of kids that I would have wanted to hang out with when I was a kid. These kids had it going on. They knew everything there was to know about monsters, and the stuff they didn't know they made up until they did know. And the movie does have a lot of dark humor in it, but a lot of the humor that is a little bit adult will go over the children's heads. There is a lot of language that the kids are using in the movie that might be considered a little bit inappropriate, but the movie is brilliant. The movie follows Dracula as he starts off in the movie trying to open up a portal so that he can unleash darkness upon the world and the monsters can roam free. You know, that whole type of thing. Well, Van Helsing stops him. And then flash forward to 1987. And in 1987, these little kids and they kind of get a hold of Van Helsing's diary that lets them know that the monsters that they love are real. You see, these kids aren't just any kids. These kids have their own club, a monster club, where they talk about all things monsters, just like we talk about all things fandom. They have this little club that is in a treehouse, and upon the main character, a character named Sean, getting this diary of Van Helsing, he finds out that the things that have been going on in their little sleepy town have more to do with the supernatural and monsters than anything else. In fact, he puts it together really, really quick that this is Dracula and there are monsters in their town. And they spend the movie trying to figure out how they're going to stop these monsters from getting what they want. With the help of a guy that they refer to as Scary German Guy, they end up being able to translate Van Helsing's diary. After figuring out they only have a few days to stop Dracula from winning this time, because Van Helsing didn't actually stop Dracula. He just stopped him from doing what he intended to do, didn't actually kill him. And Dracula is back, and he's going to try to complete what he was doing before. And can these kids actually stop the Universal monsters? This was the question that was posed by this movie, and it's also what made the movie great. You have the little rascals essentially fighting with the Universal monsters, and it takes itself seriously enough to not make you think it's a slapstick comedy. But it also has enough jokes and enough non-serious moments that you know that you are in fact watching a horror comedy anyway. One special thing that I didn't know then that I cannot unsee in my head now is that Liam Neeson of Star Wars fame, you know, Qui-Gon, was actually up for the part of Dracula, but he got beat out by Duncan Regehr. And I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm probably not. Because of copyright reasons, some things did have to change, like the appearance of Frankenstein, which was owned by Universal Monsters. The name The Creature from the Black Lagoon was apparently off limits, as you never actually hear them address him as the creature from the Black Lagoon. And little things like that made the movie kind of stand out. They had to be careful about what they were doing and yet still make it true enough that if you're watching the movie, you kind of get the hint that these are indeed supposed to be those Universal monsters. And I think they did a brilliant job. The actor who plays Frankenstein, Tom Noonan, has played a lot of different characters in the past, oftentimes being the big, huge characters. And he said that it was one of the things that he enjoyed was working with these kids. And the idea that Frankenstein was supposed to be a little bit scary. And all of the actors seemed to have a little bit of fun. Duncan and the director actually didn't tell the little girl playing Phoebe that she was going to be hissed at by Dracula. He actually opens up his mouth, veins, and everything, and it scared the little girl to death. And the tears you see on screen during that moment are in fact her real tears. So the movie knew when to hit those comical marks, but it knew when to make things a little bit more scary. And that's what made this movie work. As comical and funny as the movie is throughout, it actually does have a fair share of gore and blood. Even a little tiny bit of blood, although you have the shadows kind of concealing different things and, not really showing that to maintain its rating. Because the movie was not rated R, and the movie was essentially made for a teenage demographic, which it succeeds. So as silly as the movie is, it still holds up today pretty well. Although there are some things that feel slightly outdated, overall the movie still holds up. In fact, in July of 2006, Wizard magazine actually said that Dracula was number 30 on the 100 greatest villains ever. And not just any Dracula. The Monster Squad version of Dracula was ranked number 30. So that's the thing about this movie. As messed up as this movie is, and as messed up as it tries to be at times, it succeeds. And it's also one of the early films of Shane Black. And, that's something to be considered too. After all, it was Shane Black who brought us Iron Man 3. He was the writer and director of that film. So even if you didn't like Iron Man 3, this is a guy who has been in the MCU and is respected as a film director. And this was one of his earlier films, along with his friend, Fred Dekker. Fred Dekker is more famous for things like Night of the Creeps. He also wrote and directed RoboCop 3 and was the writer on the 2018 Predator movie. So it's not like he's any stranger to the different genres either. Now, overall, I think this is a wonderful movie that I have a guilty pleasure for. I certainly love watching it. It's one of those that if it is on, I'm probably actually going to stop what I'm doing and watch the movie. And it doesn't have a very long runtime. You could do a lot worse than seeing this movie. And this is one that I actually give 5 stars to. But mind you, I probably only do that because, like I said, it is a very guilty pleasure movie. But I want to know what you guys think. If you guys enjoy this movie as much as I do. Have you ever seen this movie? What did you think of it if you did? Don't forget to share this video with all of your friends so they can be a part of the conversation as well. And then friends, make sure you hit that like button as hard as you can. It helps the channel and we appreciate it. Miko says we need more subscribers and you don't want to disappoint Miko. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video we do. And then friends, at the end of the day, I know it, you know it, and Miko knows it. Fandom is family.